Hi, this is Jessie Grace from KOSM and Don't Deserve a Grave, and you are watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews. This is episode number 145, and today's guest, we're talking to Jessie Grace. Jessie Grace is the lead singer of a band called KOSM, a progressive metal band from Vancouver, Canada, and she also sings in a band called Don't Deserve a Grave, which is more of a blackened hardcore band, also from Vancouver. And you probably know her as just Full Metal Jessie on YouTube, where she does a lot of vocal covers. Today we're going to be talking to her about what got her into metal, as well as going through her band's discography. So without further ado, let's go talk to Jessie.
So what's up, guys? I am here with Jessie Grace from KOSM and Don't Deserve a Grave, aka Full Metal Jessie on YouTube. So how are you doing today, Jessie?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Well, you're actually like the first like YouTube musician I've ever interviewed on this channel. I've interviewed like bands and stuff, but this is the first time I've legit had like a YouTube musician I've had on here.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so honored. Thank you.
Yeah. I was funny enough a while ago. I was gonna have Jared Dines on here, but
Mhm.
I remember he actually said, "Yeah, sure, I'm down," but for some reason it just never materialized.
Yeah.
Nice, but this is a special one. You're the first.
Hey,
Fir-
that's
First,
exciting.
well, the first because I remember discovering you through Johnny's Chardulo's channel. You did like
Mhm.
the collab of North Lane's Bloodline, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this chick is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was really, really fun. That cover took a long time um
Yeah.
to do because I was not feeling well at the time.
Oh
Um,
shit.
but we got it out and it was great. And then we went on to do Yellow Jacket as a
Yeah.
collaboration after that. So that was fun.
Yeah, and that was great because I remember discovering like YouTubers that do vocal covers, but never knew they had bands. Like another one of my favorites is Alex Terrible from Slarts Reveal. I discovered
Mhm.
him, and then of course and then his band Slarts Reveal. I was like, wow, this dude is fucking great.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's
Uh,
like, I don't know how he does it.
yeah, he has those lows that go lower than my own self esteem.
What a mood. What a
Yeah.
mood.
Yeah, a big fucking mood. So, kind of like the format is, I want to kind of like do a rundown of both your band's discography, as well as talk about like your journey as an artist from where you starts now. But take me back to young Jessie. So, growing up, what were like the first bands that got you into metal, and what made you want to be a vocalist?
Okay, so Evanescence was probably like the first band that like really got me into like gateway into like heavier stuff. I would say
Me
like
too.
Evanescence. Really?
Yeah, I remember hearing like the Fallen album back in like
Yeah.
2003, 2004, and I was like 9, 10 years old. I know they had Bring Me to Life. This was before it became like a meme.
Yeah.
Meme you ever see? Like I remember hearing that in Daredevil, well, which is
Oh my
like the
God.
Marvel
Yeah.
movie.
Oh my God. I don't remember where I heard it. I just remember seeing her. So I think it was like I literally was watching like Yahoo music videos, I think, and then like Evanescence like popped up.
Yeah.
Um, and I just was like, I want to be her. And I still
Yeah.
want to be Amy Lee. Like
It, yeah,
I love her.
she probably woke you up inside.
Yeah, woke me up inside. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like that first album is great. Like I heard believe it's now 20 years old. That was like came out when I was in 4th grade.
Oh my God. I think I was around the same age, 2004.
I
Yeah,
was
I was like
yeah,
8.
I was 10,
Oh my
10
God.
and 04.
I feel so
Or
old.
yeah, I feel like 2003 at that period was like great for music. Like Evanescence started debuting, but then other bands like Deftones, Linkin Park were like up and sort of like make a big name for themselves.
Same with like Corn and Slipknot. Like they were coming up the right. It was like the time of new metal. It was
Yeah,
like that's what I grew up on was like new metal. And then I
yeah,
got kind of gatewayed into like Nightwish and like symphonic metal in high school, which
yeah,
then turned to like Epica, which then turned to like Lamb of God for some reason, and then
yeah.
Killswitch Engage, and it kind of just took off from there.
Yeah, it's kind of like backwards, like the new metal stuff, like Korn, Slipknot, System of a Down, Linkin Park, Evanescence. Like I always say, if it wasn't for Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, I wouldn't have gotten into Cannibal Corpse. So it's kind of funny.
Oh my gosh. I've never fully listened to Cannibal Corpse. I've tried.
Yeah,
It's just like
I just like
not for me.
the old death
But
metal, Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, Obituary, Morbid Angel. I kind
oh
of
my god.
yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people always like shit on new metal. So I always tell people like, okay, so you're telling me that you were like 5 years old, you're like walking to school with your lunchbox listening to In the Night Side Eclipse by Emperor. And there's always like those freaking
You're listening.
yeah. There's always the
Stop. That's like
gatekeeper
when
elites or gate the freaking elitists are like, yeah,
yeah.
man, listen to goddamn Wash, man.
Well, that's like when people when Randy Bly calls out like these like kids that are like, I listened to Burn the Priest, and he's like, you weren't even born yet. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not no.
Yeah. That was just crazy. See,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
of course it was like then the metalcore stuff. Like I grew up with high school, but that was for some reason symphonic metal. I kind of didn't even get into about a decade ago when I heard like Nightwish and Epica and Camelot. And that was
Mhm.
feel like I was kind of like a late boomer, and now it's like one of my favorites.
Yeah, I feel like and like the reason why I got into it was because there were a lot more women in that like subgenre of metal at the time. And it was just like something to relate to and something to really like look at and be like, okay, I can be like a part of this community like via this subgenre. So like if you think about it, like Nightwish, Epica, within Temptation,
Yeah,
um, like they were all like a part of like they were like the big ones for like a long time. It when it came to like women, if people were like pointing out women in metal. So like that was where I really latched onto, and I think that's probably why I got into them like
yeah,
earlier in my listening timeline.
yeah, yeah. Same because I remember the first time I heard like females singing. I remember hearing Arch Enemy. I was singing. I think it was like their
Mm-hmm.
song My Nemesis. This I had no idea it was a chick doing vocals until I saw like a video for it, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's a girl, and they can do that!" And I'm like, "Wow,
Yeah.
rad."
Yeah. I mean, it's Elisa Whiteclothes from the Agonist is the reason I started screaming.
Yeah,
Um, that was like I remember because I was like there. I don't want to say I was elitist, but like when it came to like vocals, I wasn't really a fan of like, and I'm still not necessarily a fan of like the basic like cookie monster like
Bree
false
Bree.
chord. Yeah. Well, I like it when there's like different ranges and it's almost like you're singing while screaming. Like I can really appreciate that. Um, um, which is why like when I heard Elisa Whiteglows, it was like she was
Yeah,
like the women version of Randy Bly when it came to
yeah.
like how they screamed. So like I was really really inspired by her, and then I kind of just took off from there.
Yeah, yeah, she's amazing. I've actually met her a couple times, which with when she was his arch enemy. Sadly, never got to see her with the agonist. Unfortunately,
Yeah, yeah, and like I'm really sad that the agonists broke up recently or
yeah,
like decided to go their separate ways. That was
yeah,
really sad.
same. You know, I'm buddies with their drummer Simon. He's a good friend of
Simon.
mine.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I remember I only seen them twice. I saw them in 2016 where they were playing with Epica. Flesh God Apocalypse in Atlanta, and then funny enough, saw them last year in Maryland. There I was actually going to the Maryland Death Fest, which is a death metal fest in Baltimore, and they were playing like an like a separate headliner. They were like playing with Kardak Ongren, and I think they were doing a main tour. Like Hypocrisy was
I was
headlining,
gonna say,
so
was that the hypocrisy tour that
yeah,
they?
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was the last day, and they actually
Mm.
Karak on Grid did like their own headliner with the agonists, and I sort of
Oh,
decided to
nice.
leave the last day early to see them. So I'm kind of glad I did.
That's awesome. Yeah,
And
I never got to see them. I'm friends with Sam Landa, who is the drummer
oh, I
of
know
you
Sam
you
Lander.
yeah. So she's like
She's a good
she's
friend of
told me so
mine.
many stories. Yeah, she's such a great person. I
Yeah,
love talking to her.
funny
She's
enough,
so
she
easy
was
to
my
talk
first
to.
interview ever. When I started doing this stuff. If I had to start somewhere, and I decided she'll be sort of like
Yeah.
the guinea pig to start this. And I actually saw her band last year in Atlanta. And I was like, that's all. And they were like, they're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean Conquer Divide is like so catchy and so just like I really really enjoy them as a band.
Hell yeah, they're great. I can't wait for their new album.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
So kind of like like doing my research a little bit. Were you in any bands before starting up KOSM, or was KOSM like your first band?
I was in a pop punk band when I was in high school.
Yeah.
We never had like an official name, but we had like really kind of cringy names like Generic Band Number 32 and like Picnic on the Highway
Wow.
and then Folly Cove, and like it was like for 3 or 4 years, and we just like never decided on a name because we did decide on going by Faceless at one point, but didn't
Yeah.
know that the Faceless existed at that time.
Yeah.
And then we found out, we were like, oh well, can't use that. And then I was in a prog metal band called Maya that was very, very, very Tool influenced.
Yeah.
And then that's it. After that, I joined KOSM and
Yeah.
been with them ever since.
Yeah. So how did you get to know everybody in KOSM? Because I know you all formed in 2016.
Yeah. So my band Maya and my two guitarists, so my husband and the other guitarist in our band, shared a jam space with their band, and we had the same drummer and the same bassist. So we got to know each other there, and all the jamming would happen at the drummer's house. So like afterwards, we would hang out or like watch South Park or whatever, and just like hang out. So I got to know everybody then. And then both of our bands kind of imploded at the same time. So then we just decided to form a band together, the three of us. Um, and then Sterling, I knew through my old drummer from Maya. And he really wanted to be in a band that was like kind of taking it more serious. So we asked him and he joined, and he's been with us ever since. We did have a bassist named Pastrami, and we're still really close friends, but he's not in the band anymore. He wanted to focus on university instead, which is fine. He's like way younger than us. Um, but yeah, so it's basically the original lineup except minus a bassist.
Okay. And so tell me about like that first full length Cosmonaut. Not it sounds really good. Like where was that recorded at? And like the thought
Uh
process making it.
yeah, actually all of those, a lot of the actually almost all of them were kind of like leftover songs from Eric and Mike's old band. So we kind of just took the instrumentals that they didn't do anything with, and then brought it over to KOSM. And so my husband actually wrote all of the lyrics, well, most of the lyrics, the melodies, and all like the guitar parts, like all of the songs. And then I changed some lyrics and added some melodies in some parts, but they're actually like they were basically all written by the time that I had joined the band.
All
Joined
right.
the band. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw I think it's also like a concept album based on sort of the weird fiction of H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah,
That's
100%. It's
yeah, yeah, where'd that idea of that come to be to make the debut Cosm album, a concept album?
uh Eric and Mike, so my two guitarists were like really, really into Mastodon at the time.
Hell yeah.
And like Mastodon, yeah, Mastodon
Yeah.
is like all about concept
Georgia
albums.
representing.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
like it was basically that. Like they were really inspired by Mastodon to have like those concept albums that they did. And then Eric was like really into HP Lovecraft at the time, as well as like Bloodborne. So like it was very much like cosmic eldritch horror. He was in that phase, so that's where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what was like the whole like record cycle for the first album? Did you like sort of like playing locally around Vancouver and stuff?
Yeah, we started playing Vancouver in February of 2017, and then just started like making our rounds there, playing locally in Vancouver. um and just like getting to know and network with people. We played some festivals. We played Metalocalypse, um,
Yeah.
which was like it was like to highlight women in metal. Um, and then we also played Metallion at one point. So just kind of like, yeah, going around and um, just getting to know our local scene, because like before this, even we didn't really actually know anybody in our metal scene. Like none of us did. So it was like really nice to kind of get to know everybody and create more connections and discover bands that we probably would have never discovered otherwise. So yeah, we just basically played local shows, and that's it.
Awesome. Some and then of course going into 2019 you did the Eyes on the Inside EP. Usually when like bands do like an EP, I always consider that kind of like a kind of like a video game reference, sort of like a side quest in a way. So what
Mm-hmm.
was the because I know you also have the new EP that came out this year. So what
Mm-hmm.
inspired like the EP Eyes on the Inside?
Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Bloodborne. Also our name is based off of a Bloodborne reference as well.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, it's yeah. But it was there were some songs even still that were left we had left over that Slow Wave Saga had left over from previously. So we brought those over, but we changed a bunch of stuff and made it sound totally different. And then we had new like two new songs that we hadn't ever written before that were like brand new that I had put my vocals on completely. Um, but yeah, it's based off of Bloodborne. And like just Eldritch horror again. Like, yeah, that's what it's based on.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to like these concepts, do you have to like put yourself in like that mind frame or there's all of or is there like a lot of like research that goes in hand when making these concepts?
Not really. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Bloodborne lore, so I guess so actually, if you think about it. But like I'm a big fan of the lore, and then Eric loves the games. I love like all the Soulsborne lore. Like it's super fascinating to me. Um, so yeah, I guess so. Like it really Eric is like because these are kind of his brainchild mostly. Um, is very into like history and fantasy and like lore and creating stories. So I think that's where that came from when it came to like the first two releases that we've had, um, which isn't necessarily like how I write and which we'll get into with the new EP. But it's mostly like Eric's brainchild around really loving certain stories and certain lore.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course your latest EP, Vacancies, I thought was pretty good. Good. It came out literally like the day after my birthday day.
Oh,
So great
happy
birthday,
belated.
great late birthday present.
That's
So
awesome.
so did you want to try to like pick up after Eyes on the Inside, or do you want to make this kind of like a separate concept?
Oh, this is completely separate. There's no concept. So, well, kind of. The concept is basically the shit show that was 2020.
Yeah.
Um, like talking about like it has a lot of. I'm more of a writer around experiences and social commentary and like things that are happening in the world or happening with me. So like a lot of the songs, like Losing Peace was basically around like the residential schools that happened in Canada and like digging up their graves and kind of talking about the justices there. Because I am Indigenous, so like it really hit home to me. I know I don't look it, but so and then like some of them are also just about like how I personally felt while all of this was happening and like the hopelessness of feeling that way. And so it was more this one's more so of like a theme rather than a concept, if that makes sense.
Right. And I know you also label KOSM as progressive metal. So what and sort of like you and like everybody else influenced you to create sort of like this kind of like style for your band?
Well, it started off with Gojira, Mastodon, Tool, and the Agonist were like the four that we would always reference. And then as we started like writing, especially for this EP, it was way more of a collaborative effort. Um, we all wrote pieces of the album rather than Eric bringing everything to us and then us kind of puzzling things together. Um, and so like my influences had shifted from those to like Spirit Box and Dayseeker, but also like Lorna Shore and Brand of Sacrifice and Within Destruction. So like a lot more deathcore vibes I think you can hear in the newest EP rather than like straight progressive metal, which is what were the two first releases. So, um, yeah, those are basically the influences that I brought when it came to my vocals. And I know that for like Eric and Mike, and they wanted to bring more of like a core element. So, like Killswitch Engage. And then Eric also really likes like Lorna Shore and like more death metal things, deathcore vibes nowadays. So that's kind of like where the shift kind of happened with this new EP
Yeah.
that came out.
Yeah. And kind of like going into your live shows, do you have to like put yourself in like that same kind of like mind frame as to recording, or do you try to like keep that completely separate?
I keep it like separate. We record it. I've learned that I really like recording at home because I have my own recording setup. So like if I can, I will do vocals at home. So it's a completely different mindset than being on stage. But like for me, being on stage is more so um like an actual show, like an entertainment, rather than like going through the motions of just doing vocals. So like my terrible stage banter in between each song, I have to think about that I'm like really not good at. So like trying to put myself into like a more, I'm very introverted at heart. I really like to like just be by myself. Um so like having that like extroverted, like really like hype up energy is like a different mindset for me that I have to like put myself into. Um and half the time it works, half the time I just start rambling like an idiot.
Yeah.
Um and no one knows what's happening anymore. So
Yeah, and kind of also in the keeping the same topic of like live shows, like in your opinion, like what's like the best live show that you've done, and which one was sort of like the weirdest, messiest one to date, and why?
ooh, that's hard. Uh the best one was probably when we opened for Ginger. We opened for Ginger in 2019.
Oh wow.
Um and it was like the best I had ever performed, the best I'd ever screamed. I think it's because I like my mind knew that there was like a lot riding on this because like there were a lot of, it was like a sold out show. We had never really opened for a band at that of that caliber before. Um so that was probably like the best one that we'd ever played personally from a vocalist standpoint. And then the worst was probably when we first tried our in-ear rig in December of 2021. It was like just a disaster. Like we just like because we well, it was thankfully it was just like a little local show, so it wasn't like terrible. Um, but it was just like we were trying to figure everything out and things weren't working and um like Sterling could only hear me, so my drummer could only hear me. He couldn't hear the click. So like it was just yeah, it was just a lot of finagling and like trying to figure out. But I would probably say that one was probably like the worst that we played.
Yeah, and still continuing with sort of like the live topic. What's like your favorite song to play live?
Probably probably the Emblem, which is one of the new ones, and then also Yarnum. I really love playing Yarnum.
Yeah.
Those two are probably my favorite.
Yeah. And so far in KOSM's existence, what has been like the biggest accomplishment for the band, and alternatively, what has been like the hardest challenge, and how did you all manage to like overcome it?
Again, I would say like the Ginger show is probably like our biggest achievement. Like getting that show and like having a lot of fans and things like that. And having it like right before the pandemic. I think that kind of goes into like the most challenging thing. Um, because we were like in the middle of writing the EP. The EP actually was supposed to be 12 songs. It was supposed to be a full length album. And I think the most challenging thing we went through was like during the pandemic, our tastes changed. We didn't really want to write prog anymore. We didn't want to write all these complicated things anymore because the first two albums were very technical. And we just kind of were like, we've done this and like we kind of lost interest. Not lost interest, but like your tastes and what you listen to and what inspires you kind of changes and shifts. And then obviously like during the pandemic, like not being able to get together and jam or like have a conversation about what's going on. So like it was actually really challenging to write this EP for me personally, because of the fact that like I had lost inspiration for the songs that we had written literally 4 years ago. So we kind of like narrowed down the ones that we thought were still strong, and were basically done, and released what we have as the EP now. But that was probably like the most challenging
All right.
personally for me in the band. Yeah.
All right. And kind of like I wanted to switch topics again because I know you have like your YouTube channel, Full Metal Jessie, which I've checked out your channel, and I was trying to do like research. Like the oldest thing I've ever saw was like you did like the two versions of Fiction by Avenged Sevenfold. Like tell me about like that. How did you decide to start up your YouTube channel?
I actually had a YouTube channel before this YouTube channel that I deleted. I actually started doing YouTube when I was 13.
Oh wow.
And it was all Evanescence covers. All of them. They were all Evanescence covers. That's all they were.
Yeah.
Like one takes on like my shitty digital camera, which was just like awful. So I deleted that. And then had a DSLR, started getting better, doing better videos. Then I stopped for a really, really long time. And actually only started recently like really going hard like 2 years ago, with I think Panophobia, or the Spirit Box cover was like the first like really serious cover I had done ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I've always loved YouTube. I've always wanted to be a content creator. That's like something I've always wanted to do.
Me too.
So yeah. So like since I was like 13, since YouTube was a thing, basically.
Yeah, and I've seen like some of your vocal covers. Like it's one thing to like just have like you just like with a mic just singing, but I love how you actually like take it like an extra mile and a half. Like you almost like do like everything like it's almost feels like with like the makeup, and then like you sort of like almost like acting a little bit. Almost feels like you're like a music video in a way. And I love how you like just like to take it like that step further.
Yeah, I really love doing that too. It actually started with the Spirit Box video. I had like just had this image in my head. And so I started with that. And then after, I really loved editing it. I thought it was really fun. And it kind of like added another level of excitement to the video. And it's like something to actually like visually look at rather than just like listen to me while I'm just like in front of a screen. I don't know if I'll continue to do that because it's a lot of work. But I do love doing that when I have the time and like the bandwidth for it.
It looks and they both look really sick.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also I wanted to talk about like your guessing it's like another new band called Don't Deserve a Grave. So how did you form that band? Did you want to try to do something like more heavier than with KOSM?
Yeah, so my husband is also in that one. And he was in a band before that called Codex Factoria, which actually had Scott Watts from Sacrifice in it. So like that was like a whole band that was like had kind of like fell apart or just like kind of went their separate ways. But there was still material that they wanted to like look like hash out, but they didn't have a vocalist anymore. So they asked me and I said, sure, like let's give it a go. I'm not really into hardcore because it's more of like a hardcore, black and hardcore feel. And I had never been in a band that like was just screaming before. So we tried it out. It was fun. It's still fun. But it was definitely more of like a side project or like a hobby band, whereas KOSM was like the serious.
Yeah. So it's like
the one that was my baby. Like KOSM is my baby. And then D-Dag is like really fun. Writing is so much easier for it. And it's just like hype. Like it's just fun.
Yeah, so Don't Deserve Grave is just like a hobby kind of band, whereas KOSM is just like full on serious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that it's like D-Dag is not serious. Call it D-Dag, less
Yeah.
syllables. But
Yeah.
it's not that it's not serious. It's just like it's like something that we focus on, but like KOSM takes precedent
Yeah.
um when it comes to like shows and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just like, is there like a sort of like a different like a mind frame depending on like either of one of those bands, or are you allowed to just like be like yourself depending on like the project?
I mean, for both, I get to be myself, and I get to like tap into different aspects of what I like to do and like what kind of music I like. I know that for like KOSM, it's actually shifting back. What we're writing right now is like very like Dayseeker and Spirit Box and like more melodic and like Bad Omens, like that kind of feel. Whereas D-Dag is still very, very heavy. Um, so I get to like tap into different facets of the music that I like um, in both bands, which is really, really, it's really nice. And the people who I'm in the bands with are like super supportive of that.
Yeah. And I also love how you have like the different usages of your voice. Like you have like the clean singing and the heart singing, which both have can display different emotions. Like a lot of people say like harsh vocals, like it's all like you're always just angry, but I think isn't the case. Like you
Yeah.
have like you can express like feelings of despair or sadness, like and anything. Like I feel like harsh vocals can also display some emotions that like clean singing can't, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think I've always like preferred bands that do both. I'm not like the biggest fan um of like if it's just screaming throughout. I mean, there are obviously bands that I really like where that is the case, and even then it's because they're using different registers of their vocals um rather than like just one tone. Um but yeah, I totally agree. I think it's really nice to be able to do both to convey what I want to convey in certain parts of songs.
Yeah. And sort of like in the end, to sort of wrap things up, what is something else that we can like look forward to seeing for Cosm or some or D-Dag? Dag, is there a chance maybe you could bring Cosm to the States for a tour? We'd love to have you.
I would love to. I don't know what that's gonna look like. We're playing a show in August with Wintersea. So that's really exciting. Um, and then D-Dag is also playing a show in August. But otherwise we're just writing right now for both bands. So you can kind of expect that. I'm also recovering from like a vocal injury.
Oh
Um,
shit.
which happened, yeah, it happened in May of last year, so it's been a year. Um, where I had pneumonia in May and June. Um,
Oh
and
wow.
then I did two festivals. I did Loud as Hell and Armstrong right afterwards, so I didn't give myself any time to recover. And I think because of that, I developed vocal nodes. You can actually kind of hear it while I'm talking right now. Um, and so I'm just on the mend for that and like trying to be intentional with like how I use my voice and when I use it and um like what shows to take. So I don't really know what live shows will look like in a little bit, but I definitely want to get back out there and I definitely do want to tour. And I know KOSM wants to tour as well. So as of right now, we're writing. So expect new material in the future.
Awesome. So before we go, I just want to thank you for this interview, Jesse. It's just any final words you want to say to close this out?
No, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, make sure to check out KOSM and Don't Deserve a Grave. We're both on Spotify, as well as some of my covers that you can check out on YouTube as well. So yeah, no, but thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Awesome. So everybody, Full Metal Jesse, Jesse Grace from Cosm and Don't Deserve a Grave. We'll see you next time.